Welcome, everybody. I'm pleased to be introducing cover letters to you today. My name is Jane Russell, and I'm one of the career advisors at Hult. And I'll be joined by Matt Lenda, my fellow
Hi, everyone.
fellow career advisor as host. We're going to be going over the main points of an effective cover letter for the next half hour or so. And I know the cover letters are common in some countries, but not so common in others. But I think you'll be much more comfortable with the process once we've gone through our materials today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat box, which Matt will monitor. And we'll save questions for the end, if that's okay with everyone. And we'll be recording the session, so you'll be able to access the content immediately following on Career Essentials. So here we go. So here's what we're going to cover today. The purpose and the do's and don'ts of a cover letter, the format, components of a cover letter. We're going to first talk about the header, the introduction, and the conclusion of the cover letter, and then talk about the content of the middle paragraphs, which will be a little more unique and involve a little more thought to the posting you're applying for. So first header, introduction, conclusion, and then middle paragraphs. Okay. So does anybody want to give a guess to what the purpose of a cover letter is? You can put that in the chat box.
Any guesses? I'm watching the chat box, everyone. What is the purpose of a cover letter?
Yeah.
Any guesses? Jane, is it to make the interview process more painful?
I think so. I think that's a good guess. All right.
Oh,
so
we have a couple answers here.
Oh, we do? Oh, good. Awesome.
Yep. Sophie says to introduce yourself and show how you are a fit for the job. Nancy says to show employers how you communicate. Any other guesses?
Those are all good answers. They're all great answers. But the purpose is, ta-da, Matt.
Ta-da, to get an interview.
Get an interview. All right. In addition, it is to get an interview, but in addition is explain the value that you can bring to the company. To show your enthusiasm and drive in the letter, and to highlight a personal connection or referral. That's really important with a cover letter. If someone has referred you, you need to say that up front in the cover letter, and I'll show you how to do that a little later on, to introduce your personal brand and to show that you can express yourself well in written form. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over some of the do's of a cover letter. You do need to tailor your cover letter to the specific job you're applying for. Always write one, as it will increase the chances of your application being seen by the recruiter's applicant tracking system. As you'll be writing keywords in your cover letter, which may bring your application to the top of many other applicants, and we'll talk about that a little later on in the presentation. No longer than one page. You want to be concise to show that you can get a point across and not be long-winded here. And it's really a window into how you're going to communicate as an employee. So being succinct and to the point is key. You should focus on the company's needs and wants, not yours. And the formatting should match your resume so you have a nice cohesive package to send to the employer. And we'll take a look at the formatting of a sample cover letter in a minute. Okay, so let's just look at the don'ts here. So, don't repeat word for word what's in your resume. You need to think of something new to say that's not on your resume. And I know this is hard to do, but try not to begin every sentence with I. It gets to be too much and boring to the reader if you overuse the word I. And don't focus on why the job is a great fit for you. A company wants to know what you can do for them, not what they can do for you. So remember, you're being hired to solve a problem, and this role may be a good career move for you, but don't say that in the cover letter. The company wants to know if you have the skills to do the job. Obviously no spelling or grammar errors. They want to know if you can write and pay attention to detail. And here's another tip. You're bound to see something you'd like to change if you look at the document with fresh eyes at a later time. So please put your cover letter aside for a few hours before you upload and hit the send button. You'll be glad you did.
Even like having like a friend just, read it for you just to make sure that, you've been looking at this letter on your page for how many hours now. So get a fresh perspective. Even just taking a couple hours off yourself and looking at it, that will come back and you'll notice maybe a simple mistake that could be fixed right away.
Exactly. Good point, Matt. Okay. Next slide, please.
Oh, all right.
So here's what the overall look of a cover letter looks like. So you want to have uniformity here. The cover letter should match the look and feel of your resume. And I'm sure you can see some of the similarities here. The heading is similar to your resume, Arial font like your resume. So let's just go through the components, okay? So first is your heading. That's your name and address, the date, the address of who the letter is going to, salutation, which is the greeting. Then we have the introduction, a why you paragraph, and we're going to go over that in a few minutes. And then a why them paragraph. Why do you want to work for them? Conclusion, and then your signature. Okay, so let's go through each one of these components. All right. So as I mentioned earlier in the session, we're going to be reviewing the heading, intro, and conclusion first. So some quick notes about the heading that we just reviewed. It's really just a cut and paste of your resume. All the content should be left aligned and justified. On a formal cover letter, you write the address, and you write the date. It's January 10, not January 10th. And if you can find the person that you're sending the cover letter to, that shows that you really put some research into this. You can use the headquarters of the company for the address if you can't find a local address, but it shows that you've done some extra research if you find a name.
So Jane, what if you can't find a contact at the company? Is it still okay just to put like the company name as the addressee?
Yeah, you can. You can go ahead and do that if you cannot find a name. A good tip sometimes is even to Google the VP of HR at that company, which you can readily find. And that gives you some name to address the letter if you don't know anybody.
And it also shows that you did the research on the company, so you know like what their structure looks like. Even if it's the top HR person, fantastic. At least you know who's part of that organization.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. So now the salutation, that's the greeting. So just some quick tips. If you don't have a personal connection there, but you find out who the person is, it's Dear Mr. Jones or Dear Ms. Jones. If you do have a personal connection in there, you know somebody at the company who you're addressing this letter to, that is perfectly fine to be more informal, Dear Michael or Dear Barbara. But as we said before, do your best to find the person's name of within the company for the salutation. And one thing that we really want to stress is avoid to whom it may concern or dear sir or madam. That's pretty old school. People don't use that anymore in a cover letter. So if possible, also try to avoid dear hiring team or dear hiring manager. It's better to find a person's name, but if you really can't, dear hiring team or dear hiring manager is okay.
And Jane, if I can jump in here, in my former HR days, I can remember my HR colleagues and I rolling our eyes so hard just seeing that phrase, to whom it may concern. That is so like this bland, and it's not remember, HR is the emotional type of people in the business office. You want to try and form that connection. It's very disconnected by saying to whom it may concern or dear sir or madame. It's just very old school, and welcome to 2020. Like, you need to get with the times.
Exactly. Okay. All right.
All right.
So can we go to the next slide, Matt? Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about sample first sentences and paragraphs that you can start your cover letter out as. So Matt, you just want to click on the first one, please?
Sure.
So this says, I read your advertisement for an account manager on idealist.org with keen interest, as my qualifications are a great match for this position. Does anybody have any feelings about that one or want to comment on that conventional first sentence?
Is that impactful?
Yeah. So, it's still widely used this kind of conventional first sentence. Let's go to the second sentence and show how you can expand upon it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So I'm contacting you to convey my interest in the summer strategy consultant position. I feel my 6 years of experience at such and such company with an emphasis on operations, coupled with my formal academic training at Hult, will allow me to make an immediate impact during an internship. So if you want to click on the next.
Yeah, sure. Jane, I don't know about you, but I feel like that second verbiage is more powerful than that first sentence. It's kind of like a hook. Like reading that first piece, like you're already giving me some more information, so it's really drawn me into why you're even talking to me. What's the point of this letter? What do you need from me?
Exactly. So, these introductions to a cover letter are yeah, I just want to say that point.
Yeah.
So these introductions to a cover letter are acceptable. They're still widely used, but some you'll read some articles on cover letters that say they're pretty predictable. I just want to put it out there. I mean, some are fine, but some are predictable.
Totally.
So let's look at some alternatives, and if they fit your personality, let's look at these. So there are some career sites that you can put the first one up, Matt. It's okay.
Sure.
So there's some career sites that tout using a more creative opening to show your creativity and stand out from the rest. So I'm going to quickly read this so you can digest it. But again, these slides will be available after the webinar for you. So here's an example of one of my students last year. She had a great marketing background who was applying for Netflix. So she writes, during my childhood, there was no Blockbuster store in my hometown, but my father had a huge library of VHS movies at home. So the neighbors frequently came by to borrow a movie for the night. Since I can remember, I've been surrounded by movies in the theater. My father was an actor in his youth and tied to the theater one way or the other, which gave me the opportunity to experience this art form since I was very young. This is one reason I feel I can bring much enthusiasm and expertise to the position of Kids and Family Coordinator animated series to Netflix. Okay, so just a creative example. If you feel like you want to bring creativity into it, and it's kind of a creative position that you're going for, that's just another way to do it.
Jane, would you ever use this, say, for like a financial role? Would you get this creative, say, in finance?
Yeah, not so much, I don't think.
Yeah, so
I think if you're applying for a finance role, they probably want to see you maybe a more serious side.
Absolutely. So it's just dependent on like the job that you're going into. So be creative towards the jobs that are creative and be a little more conservative towards the jobs that are conservative.
Yeah. Let's look at another one.
Sure.
So most candidates are drawn to startups for the free food, beanbag chairs, and loose dress code. And while all those things sound awesome coming from my all too corporate cubicle, I'm really attracted to this company for its collaborative international team. So a startup might be another company that's doing something, cool and, innovative that might be drawn to something like this. So just use your best judgment on your openings. Okay. Make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Oh, and there are lots of creative examples on the Muse. If you want to go look there, themuse.com is one of my favorite places to look. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole slide. Yeah, here we go. But here's an example of an opening paragraph in a cover letter where you're being referred to the company by someone. And the key point here is to mention the referral's name in the first sentence so it immediately catches the reader's eye. So you can see the applicant mentions Stephanie Weber right away. In the second paragraph, they mention Gary Berg and then move on with their introduction, as in the previous introduction examples. So the idea is to get the referral's name out there quickly and then go on with the introduction. So if you have a referral, get it out there quickly. Okay. Perfect. All right. So then we're going to jump to we talked about the header of the introduction. Now we're going to jump into the conclusion and closing. At the end of the letter, you want to definitely reiterate your interest and fit for the position, indicate how they can contact you, thank them for their time and consideration. And the signature typically is sincerely or regards, that's usually used. Yours faithfully, yours truly, or other more familiar signatures aren't be used because it's a formal business letter. So that's just what typical. And now we'll show you some conclusion examples.
Sure, and like even like the reason behind why Jane and I are talking about the header first, the intro paragraph first, and conclusion and closing first, is because typically these three pieces of the cover letter will typically be the same on every single cover letter that you use. Obviously, you're going to change a little bit of the verbiage, but typically you're getting the same point across. That's why going into the next pieces, we'll explain more what the middle paragraphs look like. So look at it next at some conclusion examples.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
So here are some closings. Again, these reiterate the points mentioned in the above paragraphs to remind the reader of their skills and repeat how the reader can get in touch with them, and always thanking them for their time. So I'll just briefly go over these. You know, the first one, I'm confident that my leadership skills coupled with my curiosity and creativity will allow me to deliver high value to what industries. I'm looking forward to speaking to you about the possibility of joining your team. This is how you can contact me. I believe this background provides the management skills you require for this position. I'd welcome the opportunity for a personal interview to further discuss my qualifications. So you just want to make sure that there's a nice ending to your cover letter.
Absolutely.
Okay. So paragraph 2, we talked about this before in the components when you saw it, the match, why you. So the second paragraph is all about the match. You really need to study and understand the job description so that your cover letter is effective. The cover letter is all about letting the employer know that you can do this position. So, you know, a tip is if you focus on the top 3 skills, and they're typically the first few that are listed in the job description, and give specific examples of your experience with those skills, that's really the most effective thing you can do. You know, and make sure the examples that you give are not word for word achievement bullets in your resume. You want to present something new. And one thing that, you know, is to think about is if you have 70 to 80% of the skills listed in that job posting, you're in pretty good shape. If you have less than that, the job may not be a fit for you. So really analyze it so you're not wasting your time and the recruiter's time. So the match is really important to show that you can do the job. Any other comments, Matt? Joseph?
We do have a couple questions about the previous sections if you want to maybe quickly answer them.
Oh, sure.
All right, so first question we have from Sophie. If we don't have a referral but connected with multiple people in the organization, should we mention a couple of them?
You absolutely can. I had a student a couple of years ago who was applying for a leadership development program. And what he did before he applied for that program is he went on LinkedIn and found people that were previously in that program. And he mentioned those people in his opening paragraph, excuse me. He talked about that he had spoken to, you know, Mary Jones and Susan Smith and said that speaking with them even convinced him more that this was the right fit for him.
Great. Also, we have a second question regarding the conclusion paragraph. Do we need to indicate in the last sentence how they can contact us, even though our contact information is in the header?
Yeah, I think I would. Most people look for it there. And it's another way just to brand yourself and get it out there. So they're not, it's really very convenient for them to have it there again.
Absolutely. I think it's also kind of like a formality. It's just a great way to like tie the bow on top and end the cover letter. Like, yeah, as always, please contact me at your convenience.
Yeah, those are great questions.
Great. All right,
okay.
Moving on.
Perfect. Okay. So now we're gonna look at some sample middle paragraphs to help you with your content. So this is an example of a experienced MBA. This is his second paragraph, reflecting on his accomplishments or a match for the position that he was applying to. There are results of operational efficiencies, increases in revenues, matching the skills that were asked for in the job description that he was applying to. So I'm going to read it. So I'm confident that I could contribute to your company day one. During my 5 years at XYZ Bank, I managed to thrive, finding myself in a position of leading teams where I had no formal authority. I improved the operational efficiency of several reporting processes by 85%. as well as directed and executed statistical analysis of a $20 million credit card behavior database to understand industry trends and competitive advantages. My efforts were recognized as integral to the turnaround experience by the company from 2015 to 2018, when the company grew 80% in revenues. So you can see that the numbers and the percentages are clearly there for the reader, and show the candidate's past accomplishments as they related to the job description that he was applying for.
Also, I don't know if any, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, I don't know if anyone remembers back in Career Week, working on like our bullet points and how we want to use the framework CAR, challenge, act, and result, and try and make it quantifiable. Having those numbers, even in the bullet points, even having numbers in your cover letter, draws a reader's eye in. So listing these numbers is a great opportunity for you to get more eyes and more laser focused on your cover letter.
Absolutely. Okay. So here is another example. This second paragraph was composed by someone with a little less experience. We wanted to show that to you as well. She was an MIM who was able to promote herself very nicely with the projects she accomplished as a student at Hult, and her role as a student ambassador and a member of the Hult Marketing Club. You know, again, displaying that she could do this job through her skills and accomplishments. So this year, during my Master of International Marketing, I was been selected to join the Student Ambassador team while achieving Dean's List. As a Student Ambassador, I have had the opportunity to gain experience promoting the school brand, as well as present in front of audiences, both large and small. Working with this team, along with the Hult Marketing Club, we've been able to increase Hult's presence in Boston and across campuses all over the world by maximizing various platforms, including websites, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, local newspapers, and promotional events. So, you know, there's not a lot of figures or percentages, but still, you know, I think this person has presented herself well because she's been selected to be a student ambassador. So that shows she's got probably great hard and soft skills, Dean's List, things like that.
And it's a great way if you don't have professional work experience. This is a great way to do it. Talk about your clubs, talk about how you're active in school. You know, all these things are really great, you know, pieces to showcase to employers.
Yep. Great. Okay, next slide, Matt. Okay, so this is something different. When you find a job posting that you'd really like to apply for, another thing you could do is hone in on the keywords. So this word cloud has been made up from a financial analyst job posting. You can easily visualize what words are repeated over and over again in the description, and just make sure that they're mentioned in your cover letter. This site that we used here was Tag Crowd, but there's lots of word clouds out there. So just another tool that may help you with your cover letter content, something to think about. What are they looking for? All right. Okay, so just another way to do the why you paragraph, if you'd like to do it this way. So there's another option that students sometimes prefer in writing the second paragraph. It's described as a comparison list between the job requirements and your qualifications. So we'll show you that. So it looks like this. You can review the job description and respond directly to the why you are a fit. So the first column lists all the requirements that you take from the job description, not all, but a few of the requirements. And the second column lists how you are a fit for the job. So that's the why you.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to paragraph 3, the why them. Okay. So this is the final component, and it's desirable to mention why you want to work for the company. And I love this because it also prompts you to do some research prior to your application. So of all the companies that you could work for, why them? And your reason, again, should be unique to the company. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. You know, if you ask yourself that if I could give the same reason for working at the top of a competitor, it's probably not specific enough. So here you have a great opportunity to demonstrate how much you know about the company. Okay. Okay. So here's an example of a student who wrote why them for L'Oreal. She was particularly interested in sustainability and mentioned that their Sharing Beauty for All program was appealing to her. So I'm particularly interested in company, L'Oreal has defined innovation by developing a global strategy that commits to sustainable practices while engaging customers and improving operations and products. I'm particularly impressed with the focus on global priorities such as environmental, reductions and the engagement of suppliers to drive sustainability with the Supplier Sustainability Program. Moreover, L'Oreal Sustainability Program, Sharing Beauty for All, commits to accelerate the sustainable chain of the business along the full length of the entire value chain.
You know, Jane, this is something I really like about, you know, the third paragraph piece is like, you're kind of wooing the company. Like, yes, we all know what these companies are and what they're doing, but it's really showing again if you're doing your homework. So, you know, just like this, they're talking, this person was talking about the sustainability that this company does and, you know, quote unquote, sharing beauty with all. That's obviously keywords that are taken off from the website. So another option that you could do is also integrate the company's mission or the values that are obviously out on the website, but you bringing that in, again, that's showcasing that not only have you done your homework, but if you have the language in there that says, you know, I believe in, you know, exactly your mission and values, I share the same interests, then that again will help elevate your profile.
Yeah, I would be really impressed by this if somebody, if I knew that they really, you know, did some homework and love the company.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So those are all the components. You know, we're going to take questions afterwards, but I just want to, before we close, talk about a few more things. I want to talk a little bit about applicant tracking system, or ATS. That's a system, that's a platform to where you apply to when you're looking for a job. You typically upload your resume as a PDF, and there may be a place where you upload additional information. That's where your cover letter may go. If there's no place to upload your cover letter, you can upload your resume and cover letters one doc, usually with the cover letter first and the resume second, and upload it that day. So just make, you know, a PDF of both docs.
So Jane,
oh sure.
What if the job description or like the application area does not have a space for additional documents? Should I still upload a cover letter anyways, even if it doesn't say, you know, upload or cover letter?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But if the instructions say, don't send a cover letter, don't send a cover letter. And believe me, some companies do. I think Google says, Amazon, you know, don't send us a cover letter. So don't send them a cover letter.
Absolutely.
Just follow the instructions. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So next slide here. Okay. So just a recruiter's, both Matt and I were recruiters. So just a recruiter's perspective on cover letters, you know, and over the years, you know, we've spoken to many recruiters on the subject of cover letters. They've come to campus, you know, we've talked to them about, you know, during different events, and you'll hear many different perspectives. You know, some say they always read a cover letter. Some say they never read a cover letter, don't bother. Some say they read cover letters first, some say they read cover letters last, but you just need to write one to be on the safe side. You can't take that chance.
I can remember my own, you know, professional HR side. I would remember, like, you know, typically a job application gets about 200 applications from 200 people, right? Once I would get it weeded down to my final like 25 or maybe even 15, 10, that's when I would then go forward into reading the cover letter. So like that, again, just personal, that was my style. I know many people that would read the full documents, all 200 of them. That took a lot of time for myself. I didn't choose to do that. So just know that every recruiter is going to work a little bit differently, but it's in your benefit if you have, you know, the cover letter with it, because that only enhances your application.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then here's some additional resources for you. You know, on Career Essentials, we have sample cover letters there, a whole section. You know, you can look at cover letters there. Believe it or not, you can Google and Google financial analyst cover letters, Google brand management cover letters. They come up. You know, I'm not saying they're great, or some are, some aren't, but it gives you some additional. I'm sorry.
And don't copy them word for word.
Don't copy them, but it gives you some ideas.
Sure.
Monster has them there. Matt, you can talk about Zeti.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Zeddy's just a really, it's like another kind of career website, but they have a really great 8-step cover letter walk you through. So it's exactly like what Jane and I did. It just gives some more examples and breaks it down a little bit more. So honestly, just going out looking for those additional resources, it's really going to help you.
Yeah. And again, I always talk about the Muse. I love the Muse. The Muse has probably 6 or 7 sections in their career site on cover letters, just different examples, whether you want to be a creative opening or a standard opening. It's just great. So, please take advantage of that. All right, so next. So here's the last bit of information, then we'll be happy to take any questions that you have. If you'd like your career advisor to review your cover letter, just please give us a couple of days to review it. It may be unlikely that you'll receive a turnaround in a couple hours because, like my recommendation to you, I want to do it and then have it look at it for a couple hours, put it away before I give it back to you. So give us 24 hours, and it's really helpful if you email your resume that you're going to use, the target resume that you're going to use for this particular job, the cover letter, and the job description. So we want to make sure that you've hit on all the pieces. So
also, just know too, like your classmates are sending your advisor cover letters. I read cover letters all day long. So if you feel like you can't send it to us, you can, because your classmates are already doing this. So please send us your your cover letters with these other documents, and we'll get it, completely honed in for you and give you additional tips if you need it.
Absolutely. So I hope this was helpful. We're happy to take any questions that you may have.